Okay. Now, thank you everyone for participating today in our Zoom call, and we're calling it "Are You Ready for College?" Thank you guys for being here today.
Problem, no
Thank you for having
problem.
us.
Great. I'm going to take this time now to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Ms. Teresa Hawkins. She is a graduate of Hume Falk and is currently a sophomore at Johns Hopkins University. Her major is molecular and cellular biology. Thank you, Teresa, for being here today. Our next person is Miss Carly Freeman. Carly is actually, she was homeschooled, and now she is currently enrolled in Fordham University, Lincoln Center, and she is a senior, and her major is film and TV, and she actually has a minor in mathematics. So thank you, Carly, for being here today. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Jared Hall. He is a graduate also of Hume Falk and is currently a junior at Middle Tennessee State University. And his major is music business. Thank you, Jared, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, okay, guys, what I'm going to do, I have some questions that I'm going to ask you guys. I'm also going to be monitoring the chat just in case anybody jumps on to the Zoom call and has some questions. I will call your name out, get you to answer the particular questions. We ask that you keep them to 2 minutes apiece. And if y'all don't have any questions for me, we're going to go ahead and get started. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
All right. Now, I have an opening question for you guys. Teresa, what were your feelings and or thoughts when you found out that your campus was closing due to COVID-19?
I honestly wasn't surprised just because a lot of the schools around me had already started closing down, but it was the first time that I realized that COVID would actually be affecting me directly, not just something that I saw in the news or that was affecting people in nursing homes. Like it had a direct effect on me and the way I live my life.
Okay, thank you. All right, Carly, can you answer that same question?
Sure. So COVID affected me, like the way I felt about it, it changed. At Fordham, there were two big waves. There was the first wave, since we were in New York City, we had like cases in faculty, and so they closed us down briefly and sent us all home. So that was like, oh, this is weird. And I walked out of campus being like, this is going to be a museum. This is going to be the way it used to be, but I expected to come back a couple weeks later. And then when we actually closed, that's when I cried and was like, I didn't say goodbye to any of my graduating friends. That was the main thing that was sad for me.
Wow, I'm sure that was hard. Wow. Okay. Jared, same question.
So for me, my experience, I'm an RA, a resident assistant on campus at MTSU, and I was still up there until school actually closed completely, like for the semester.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had started like the quarantine, I think mid-March, and until I think it was May 15th, I was still on campus, just like making sure people who couldn't get home as soon as everybody else were okay. Just really weird. It was just always a ghost town on my campus. It was quiet. I would just walk around and just like hear the birds chirping. So it kind of weighed on me like mentally and emotionally like the first month. And after a while, it just kind of was like, okay, if this is how things are going to be, okay. And then when I moved back home afterwards, I was like, oh, we're going to go back again into this. So it's just been kind of weird. That's my best word for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I know, okay, when all this started, you went from in-person classes to now you're going to have to do your classes virtually. You did your classes virtually. So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you guys in regards to online classes versus in-person classes, okay? So Carly, what do you see as a major difference between online and in-person classes?
For me, the major difference for my arts courses was the discussion-based learning, because that either moved online for my like larger classes. I had one TV theory class that only had 8 students, so we could continue doing that on Zoom, and it was like nothing had changed. My math courses pretty much stayed the same. The only thing that went different was lectures were online, but like exams stayed the same. But for me, since I'm a math minor and an arts film and TV major, I had a completely different experience with the arts side that did a 180 turn, but the math basically stayed the same for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jared, can you please answer the same question? If you need me to reread it, I can do that as well.
Okay, so basically the major difference that I noticed was really just the level of interaction with like my classmates and professors. When you're in the classroom itself, like you have a lot more to work with, to talk to people. You see things, you can actually like put yourself in that place of work. And then when you're back in your room and you're like divided by like screens, it's very hard to just get adjusted to that. And interacting with your students or your friends in the class, or even getting the professor's attention or contacting him could be a little more difficult. Not necessarily just like doing it, but just that it feels so much more like further away than it would be if you were in the classroom. So that's the main difference I would see. It's just the level of interaction with everybody.
Okay, thank you. Teresa, same question.
For me, it was just the lack of having a classroom, because at home there were so many more distractions than I would have on campus. So I wasn't just trying to do my work in a lecture hall like on campus. I was trying to do my work while my parents were cooking downstairs and my dogs were barking, and I still had to do something else for work. And so it was just a lot more to juggle.
Makes sense. Okay, great. All right, Jared.
Yes.
How have you stayed in contact with your professors in an online format, like with their office hours, one-on-one meetings?
Honestly, just tons of emails. Like, I'll send an email to make sure they got the email that I sent that week. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just email on top of email on top of email. And, like, whenever you're in a Zoom call, because there are going to be a lot more Zoom calls you'll have with, like, your professors with remote online classes. They'll ask, like, does anybody have questions for me? Is anybody concerned about anything? Ask them, have you got my email in the Zoom call? Like, hey, my name is Jared. I sent you an email about this. Like, that was my main way of just contacting them, just emailing, really. So.
Okay. All right, Teresa, same question.
Kind of the same thing as Jared, just emailing my professors a lot. Most of my professors still had office hours, and they would have a Zoom meeting and a link, so I could go to office hours that way. But you just kind of have to like put in the effort to contacting your professors, because they're definitely not going to contact you first.
Okay. Carly, same question.
Going off of what you both already said, tons and tons of emailing. A lot, like any question that I would have normally like asked after class, the professor like, hey, when is this due? Or like, can I bring a calculator to the exam? I had to email those questions. But for like questions about content, online office hours, if you can do online office hours, they're so much better than trying to email for like long form questions, like how do you solve this problem? But you have to be proactive, because the online office hours, you have to ask for them. Sometimes they're already set up, but you have to like really work to get the online office hour contact. It's not like you can just walk in someone's office like you used to be able to do.
Right.
Definitely, that makes sense. Thanks, guys. Okay. Teresa, in what ways can students get support in their classes while online, whether it's study groups, essay help, etc.? And then also, which ways have you utilized?
On my campus, we had a lot of resources like essay writing help, any like tutoring groups, and a lot of those were pushed online after we left campus. So it was helpful just to go to like their website and set up meetings with those advisors. But another thing I did was just having friends in the same class as you that you were in was really helpful, because chances are if you're up at 1 a.m. working on an essay or on a question, they're also up at 1 a.m. working on an essay or question, and you can kind of bounce ideas off of each other and help each other that way.
Great, 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 great. All right, Carly, same question.
Going off what Teresa said, having like a study group that's like students set up with your friends. Like I had one friend who did a final exam study group and just emailed the entire class. And so whoever showed up could, that was really helpful. Also, we had a lot of Slack communication for some of my classes, where it was kind of like a discussion board and you could ask questions. But the main difference with Slack is your professor can see everything that you're writing. So like just be cognizant about what you're putting on something like Slack. And then group text for math homework, highly recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jared, same questions.
Same answer. Just
Okay.
having friends in like a group that you already kind of are good with, and if you don't make the friends, like somebody is definitely struggling with you, you can hear people how they're talking about in the class, and like in Zoom and calls and everything like that. It's like, yo, I kind of struggle with that same question you asked. You want to try to get together and work on that. So just having that group to work with, and a lot of professors also give out study guides for like exams and things. Have that group just go and break down the entire study guide before the test, and just like have all your notes and maximize your studying potential. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Also, next question, Carly, I believe you're up next. I think. Trying to keep up with it. How have you maintained your focus when taking your online courses? I know there are a lot of distractions. So how have you maintained your focus?
For me, like focus has been the hardest thing. Especially like for me, focusing in class isn't that much harder. Like there's stuff out the window to watch, but for me, the main hard part is focusing on homework. So what I found myself having to do was like on my calendar, write something and pretend that it's due the day before it's actually due. So if my discussion post was due on Friday, I would put it on my calendar for Thursday. And then the other thing I would do, because I kept on getting distracted by the internet, I would turn off Wi-Fi whenever I had to like write something so that I couldn't go on YouTube and distract myself.
Okay. It's a good idea. Jared, same question.
Yeah, just making schedules. Like I have like a calendar on my phone, and I would write things like on paper, like with my notes. Just having that schedule and something simple to like go off like a plan to get things done really helped me keep my focus. And just if I didn't do it, I would just easily forget what I was doing at the hand, because I would try to do something like in that moment, and I'd be like, I can really clean my room right now, and then I would just clean my room for the next 2 hours and forget I had an exam or like an essay. So definitely make schedules and plan. That's
Okay. All right, Jerisa, you need me to come back to you?
Oh no.
Okay.
It's just treating my online classes as I would my in-person classes. So if I'm going to a lecture on campus, I'm not going to spend the entire time on my phone or sleeping. So even though I can do that while I'm online, I try to make sure that I don't and just kind of keep that same amount of responsibility.